This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Oh, good morning, everybody. This is Keith Angle, and you have tuned into Are You Serious here on TGI Sports Talk, live on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter this morning. You'll see us at 10 o'clock on Roku, and later on at some point on all the podcast channels. I think the podcast channels may not be getting the shows right now because of some internal situations, but that'll resume here at some point as well. So if you're not catching those shows there, if that's someplace you'd like them, we apologize, and they will get back there eventually. Today, and by the way, one other announcement: Sunday Stream of Consciousness, and I'll post something on the page and share it. We won't air live at 9 a.m. because I'll be out of town. We'll have a replay of Wednesday's college football huddle, and I may pop in Sunday afternoon for an impromptu, half hour, whatever it turns into, and I've got time for it. Maybe we'll do. So there'll be nothing on Roku, but on Facebook and the other outlets, we'll try to pop in and do something live, and I'll try to give you guys a little heads up of when I'm going to do it, because I know how much you guys love to rile me up on a Sunday, and one of those guys that likes to do it is my co-host this morning, the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez. Good morning, Carlos.
Morning. Happy Friday, everybody. Morning, Keith. How you doing?
Great to have you with us this morning. I know there's a lot going on in sports and Major League Baseball. Some teams playing well, not playing well. We had the Field of Dreams game last night. The NFL, we got a few things to talk about. But today, because we missed this last week, we got a couple things to, and I'll say good morning to Alan before we get started. Good morning, Alan. And we missed last week the passing of Bill Russell, and I feel really bad about that. I know I touched on a lot of other shows, but we didn't get a chance to do it here, and I want to make sure that we do it. Well, please tell me I didn't not save my DM. Anyway, the passing of I'll put it up here. I'll find it in a second when I give you a chance to talk. Bill Russell passed away last week at the age of I forget how old he was. He 88. Freaking how old he was. He was up there. Bill Russell, listen, one of the great players in the history of the NBA. We like to talk about the greatest winners in sports. And, I've talked about Tom Brady, who come up in some other conversations today and later in the week. We talk about Michael Jordan, but Bill Russell is the greatest winner in the history of sports, people. 11 NBA championships, 2 college national championships. Nobody won more than Bill Russell. And Bill Russell's going to get a great honor of having his number 6 retired by the NBA. It'll be able to be worn by there's several players that are wearing it now. They can continue to wear it if they choose, and it'll never be issued again. And there's some other honors, and I'll let you chat a little bit here while I try to find my banner here, Carlos.
Yeah, that's right. Bill Russell was 88. You're right on that.
Okay.
Rest in peace. He was I didn't see him play, but I definitely learned about him being a basketball head and learning about the game of basketball, and not being of American, just being born American but first generation. Learning about these sports and histories was important to me as far as to try to learn the game and how to play it and what to do while you're on the court, on the field, whatever games it was that I learned about growing up. And especially my grandfather and my father always you got to learn about these guys. If not, you can't. If you become one of those guys, it'll be hard to replicate things that these guys did in history. So I took learning about sports history very serious because I like sports. Saying that, I always claim and I always say, and some of the arguments that I get into, I feel like Bill Russell, even if I didn't get to see him play, he's the best player ever. He's got 11 championships. He's won as a coach and a player, which nobody's ever done. and he's won, like you said, on every level, in high school, college, on the Olympics.
Big Sue, yes.
So and then on top of that, a very humbling person because he won in a town that was very hard on people of color, and they actually treated him bad, being being on a championship team, and he stood up to them and stood up to people, and was part of the movement, and doing things like that made him a very interesting human being as a whole, not just a basketball player. And I think that what the NBA was trying to do for a number of years, because there's stories that come out that say that he did not want the number 6 to be retired. He didn't want to make a big deal about that. So, good morning, Bob. And so, that being said, it's the tribute's going to happen, and people need to know and realize who he is. And I'm glad that they changed the MVP award. And some of these awards to some of these players to give them some of the credit that's way overdue.
Alan just had a comment about, he'll never be duplicated for sure. He was a one-of-a-kind type of player. I mean, numbers-wise, his rebounds, obviously, and block shots and things like that are off the charts. But
yeah, there's more defensive than offensive for sure. But that means that he was more of a team player,
Exactly. And we get so wrapped up in offensive stats. People look at Wilt Chamberlain versus Bill Russell. Well, just look at all the matchups they had in championship series, and Russell got the better of him, I think, every time but once. And
right.
They played probably at least, I want to say they played 9 or 10 times in the finals. And Bill Russell came out of top 9 of those times. And even though we don't see a lot on the offensive numbers, scoring, let's say, but that was a team that really the Celtics founded fast break fast break basketball, and Bill Russell was a great get that rebound and get that outlet pass to start that fast break. So he contributed in all facets of this game for the Celtics. And as you talked about, it's not just what he did on the court; it's the things he did off the court. As his stature grew and into the 60s, he became a huge part of the civil rights movement in this country, with the sports figures like Jim Brown and Lou Alcindor later on. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Obviously Ali, and these guys were backing Ali when he had his issues, and so that wasn't in this country in the 60s. That wasn't in mainstream America. Those weren't popular stances to take, obviously. But as you look back on them, 60 years later, those are obviously very important to this country. We obviously still have some civil rights strife in this country, and we can't pretend it isn't here. But if it wasn't for guys like Bill Russell, it might be much, much, much worse. And he did deal with a lot of racism in Boston and throughout the country.
Right. And a tidbit, and one of the things I heard, after his passing, is that I didn't know that he was a pallbearer at Jackie Robinson's funeral.
Yeah.
And that Jackie Robinson looked up to him, not just because of his height and stature, but even stated from his wife, these are quoted from his wife, that Jackie Robinson looked up to Bill Russell for standing up and being part of the civil rights movement, and that he was very proud that other men and black men would stand up with him and try to do the best they could for the community, for the culture, and for the United States, as a whole. So, that just goes to say that, people try to take politics out of sports, but politics will be there, and sports is just there to try to, get you away from that. But at the end of the day, a person's going to do what they have to do and say what they have to say if they're given, if they're given that opportunity. So,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Look at, as far as politics and sports, it will always be there. And if you're not going to be able to separate, I'm able to separate the two. There's a lot of things that happen that I don't agree with necessarily, but I'm able to say, that's his political views. Whether I don't want to get into all the issues, obviously, but I can say, here's the sport, here's the issue. I can separate the two. I may not like his views. There's a lot of people I don't like their views on politics. They're my friends. We can disagree. I'm okay with that. I disagree on a lot of topics with a lot of people. You and I disagree with a lot of things. I still consider you a friend. We'll come out of this show. Sometimes we get a little heated, and that's what this rest of this country could really understand. You can have arguments with people, disagreements with people, be on opposite sides of issues, and at the end of the day, you say, that was fun. Let's go. We're still buddies. You're on a level because you don't think like I think.
Well, the last thing we have to look at Bill Russell and what he's been able to do while he was playing as a big man, where the rules were in his favor. Him getting beat up, and he's still showing up every year.
Yeah.
And didn't take any days off. Had a few injuries, and he played through them. And yeah, of course, it's a different time. The game was different. The leagues have changed since then. But you're talking about a hot building in the Boston Garden. Like it was a hot box, and I can't say much more than. Just like if you don't know about Bill Russell and what he's been through as an athlete, as a human being, and even as a neighbor, like you should look him up, tell your kids about him, and that's one of the best ways to learn about what it takes, being determined and where you can go if you just motivate yourself and get through life and just put your foot forward every day, because that's what he did.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I harp on the history of all the sports, right? That it's important to, maybe the games have changed and I'm not happy about that, but the history of the sports and how we got to where we got is important. And young people today need to realize the games that they're watching, whether it's basketball or other sports, didn't start the day they started watching it, right? They need to learn the history of the game. If they want to be a true fan, learn the history of the sport and your team, especially. So again, Bill Russell, by the way, we talk about Bill Russell winning. He also won as a coach because he was a player coach his last year with the Celtics as well. Went on to coach the Seattle Supersonics, not quite as successfully, but he did turn them around a little bit. They were a losing franchise and got them on the winning side. And they actually won a championship the year after he was let go with Lenny Wilkens at the helm. So.
And very impressive because, he also was a part of some of these big men. Talking to players like Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, and even Shaquille O'Neal, they always have everybody who's ever met and talked to Bill Russell. They've always had good things to say about him, and he's deserving of this. Getting his number retired, and he's deserving to be called the greatest player in basketball history. But that's always an opinion, and people will fight that.
It's a subjective conversation. I would say he's because of the way the game's changed. It's hard to say one definitive answer, right? But he's in the top 3 players ever to play the game in my mind.
He's just a legend, and it's great to have him be represented now. And so now we can move on to the rest of the NBA. And
hey, real quick before we let go on Bill Russell, one thing I have to talk about. There are times where reporters he would seem like a surly guy sometimes, but I got to tell you. There is no more infectious laugh in the history of sports than Bill Russell's. You got to go go to YouTube, anybody, and just find Bill Russell laughing, and you'll never find a more infectious laugh than that one. I love the Bill Russell laugh.
He just had a joy for life, and which is like he's like an infectious person, and everybody says it about him, and so.
Great player. I saw a great video last night of him meeting Tim Duncan. He was he'd be differential to Tim Duncan, going, "The great Tim Duncan, I'm so proud to meet you." And Tim Duncan goes, "Well, you're proud to meet me, you're Bill Russell." So
yeah, those two guys, it's incredible the things that they went through. Tim Duncan wasn't even a basketball player. Yeah. He was a swimmer for a long time. So in a young age, so it's like. For him to take on basketball and do what he did in basketball, this is,
similar type. Bill Duncan's a great player. He's not Bill Russell, right? But similar type games and approaches to the game, I think.
Right. Defense built on defense, and they go from there, right? So.
Well, while we're on the NBA, we'll continue with a topic that what's going on in New York. The Nets soap opera just gets worse and worse. Durant. And now Kyrie Irving's jumped on the same boat, are demanding that if they have to come back, that they're not going to. I don't know how they're not going to come back. I guess they're going to get paid and sit. I guess we do that in the NBA, but unless unless Steve Nash and the GM Marks are fired, they want nothing to do with the Mets or the Nets. I'm sorry, but these are not Kyrie so much, but it was Durant who orchestrated Steve Nash being a coach of his team in the first place.
Yeah, so the situation with the Nets is kind of tough because there's so many reports coming out of so many different places, and the media is just kind of. I think the media is whirlwind this into a soap opera that it is, and at the end, we don't really know what was happening, and the management and the Nets did a poor job in trying to nip everything in the butt from their side to allow any commentary or anything for any player on the team to step in and say things as well. So it all began with the Kyrie situation as far as whether they're going to sign him or whether they're going to trade him in the beginning of the offseason. And
let's go backwards. It began last year it began with when James Harden demanded a trade because of Kyrie Irving and him not being able to play home games or wouldn't play home games.
If you want to go that far, fine. We can start with that situation, which at the end of the day didn't really help either party, right? Because we got the Nets got Ben Simmons, and the 76ers got Harden, and neither went to the championship game. So
at least Harden
that move, because that was supposed to be the biggest move, right? That was supposed to be the biggest move in the East, in the Atlantic Division for them, and that didn't really help either team. So kudos, you guys. All you guys did was move players around and move your, fix your budget a little bit, but you're still overspending for two players at the end of the day.
One that never stepped foot on the court, by the way.
I mean, I'm not sure how much time it'll take for him to get back to the court as well. So
never see a court. This guy, right. He doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to play.
I don't. And to be honest with you, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it just seems like in today's NBA, there's less players that want to play a full season in its entirety and just want to get paid. And I don't. To that, I think that's going to bring in opportunities of teams locking out these players and the lockout sooner than later. So, but going back to the Nets situation, had the management and the coaching staff just gave him an extension to Kyrie, I don't think this would have been a situation at all. And because there was that, because that management didn't do that, then that opened up the floodgates for even Kevin Durant to not have any kind of confidence in that leadership. And I think that's what that stems from. And you see that the Nets, the move that they're making or that they're not making, it's not helping them in the moment. And so these two players want to be on a championship team, but they have to understand they're part of that team. But then again, the management has to put people around them to make them better, whether it's a coach or additional players. The thing that I guess bothered someone like Kyrie and Durant is that Patty Mills got an extension right off the bat at the end of the season, which kind of was well-deserved because he was, coming off the bench and helping the Nets. However, he shouldn't have been the first one signed, I don't think. But the Nets management were just holding on to a player that they think, has more value in the moment. So that whole drama stems from the situation of Kyrie not being signed, Patty Mills being signed, and then Durant seeing that not much has changed on the side of the Nets and what kind of player movement is going on.
You're right. Signing Mills, for them to be upset about that, he's a good contributor to the team. He shows up to play. How much has Durant played in 2 years with the Nets? How many times all the time that Harden and Kyrie and Durant were part of this team, I don't think they played 20 games together. In fact, I'm sure they didn't because of, injuries to all of them. And Alan had a point here about Durant going away. He's not going to go away, but I had a lot of respect for Kevin Durant until the last year, really. He's turned into a different person. If he wants to just hitch his wagon somewhere else, maybe he ought to go back to Golden State, who probably doesn't want him. I think Steph Curry's silence on that topic is deafening. That tells you all you need to know about whether they want Kevin Durant to come back there. And again, as I said, he handpicks a coach, and then he wants to throw the coach under the bus. Come on.
Right, and that's another situation of leadership, right? What the Nets were expecting out of Nash as a coach, did they really get? And then the players, if the players aren't, they're not contributing as well, then there's a problem everywhere in the on the Nets team, and it doesn't start with the players. It starts with the leadership team, and they need to get that straightened out. I'm glad to see that the owner backed up his coach
Yeah, I can't.
and the leader and the GM. However, the owner should have been more present in the earlier in the off season, and this shouldn't have been a situation at all. And the media is just taken to what he said, she said, and this is just a mess. It's a mess. And look, the bigger the mess gets, the less players are going to come to the Nets. And even if with just the two players wanting to get out of the situation, just makes it seem even worse. So
this franchise is headed for a downwards trend here for quite a while because these guys can't come back. You can't let these guys come back and run the asylum. You can't let that happen because now, and I do think that these comments are probably geared towards, more getting him out of town because now there's talk about him coming back because they can't move him. And I said from the beginning, that's an untenable situation. You cannot bring him back to play on this team again. Either one of them.
Well, listen, if I'm the coach, if I'm the GM, I'm looking around and saying, what players can we get to support these guys? Because we don't currently they're not on our roster, and you have to. If these are the two guys that you can't move, you're gonna have to make sure that they're happy in any which way, and you can't afford for them to sit out. So that again, that's a part of ownership and management that they should have had a plan from the end of the season and letting Kyrie sit out there and then let him talk and let his people talk. It was all going downwind from there. I mean, it's not downhill from there. It wasn't a good situation at all. And then now, this is the same thing that's happening with the Knicks, right? I wrote an article about it. I posted it on your site, and I just feel like they need to make a plan. They need to have a strong plan. And if they're going to go with guys who they drafted, then they need to give them the opportunity to play. If they're going to move guys who they drafted and chase jersey sales and tickets, then they're in a bad situation now because the NBA right now has less NBA stars, right, than that are available to move and to get, right? So
this is what happens when you let players play GM. They brought Durant in here and they said, "Who else you want?" He said, "Kyrie." And so they bring in Kyrie. That was the first mistake they made. And then they let him make, they key him in on all these decisions. You saw the same thing in LA. As soon as LeBron's playing GM, the team goes into crapper. He wants to absolve himself of Russell Westbrook, but Russell Westbrook is there because of LeBron.
So look, okay, so there's truth to what you're saying, but there's also the effect of bringing people in like LeBron for the Lakers. They did get a championship win, and I know it's an asterisk because of the season, because of COVID season, but they did get a winning season out of it, right? And they don't just have Westbrook; they have Anthony Davis who gets injured, who gets injured a lot. So
I'm not putting it all on Westbrook.
And then the Nets ended up getting two players and a player that's off that wasn't even playing, who sat out the first season because of injuries. The problem with the Lakers and the Nets is that they overspent money on great players, but didn't have enough to build a foundation of support for them. To win a championship, you need 7 to 8 players, and they need to be okay or good. They can't just be players on the bench. You can't, and that's the problem. For instance, what the Knicks have. The Knicks have 2 or 3 good players, and then they have a bench of a bunch of guys that they drafted, and then some other players. And that's not how you're going to get to a championship. It's not. And whether you're trying to build a team with 3 great players or just have 1 great player, you have to have a bench, and it has to be a good bench, and it has to be a team oriented. If not, you're not going to, it's going to be hard to get any kind of wins.
Teams need to kind of look at the Warrior approach, right? I mean, you got the guys that you bring in and you let grow into your system, and then you complement them with some other veteran players and a good bench, and continue to
Right, and look, everybody talks about the Warriors. The Warriors got lucky. You don't just draft players and they're going to be winning players. They just got lucky. They did really good in scouting. They have a lot of guys come in supporting them. Like, there are players that don't get enough credit.
Why are they lucky that they're the team that other teams are stupid enough not to have drafted Steph Curry?
Well, look, if you look at the teams that won, the early teams that won with Golden State, that had what's his name? I can't remember his name, but
Barry.
What?
Rick Barry?
No. I'm talking about with the Golden State when they won. They had
back boys.
No. The Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, Steph Curry, Thompson.
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about the three guys. I'm talking about their supporting players.
Oh. On that first group.
Yeah.
I am having trouble remembering them, which is probably a good thing that they were good players.
Yeah, but they were guys that were veterans that were like coming in and out of, and they were good supporting players. And like the Nets,
they did that on this year's team too. They had guys who had been cast off elsewhere that fit this system. Wiggins.
Yeah, so Wiggins ends up playing better as a basketball, playing better basketball. He's in a better situation. But then you had Poole, Iguodala. That's his name, Iguodala.
That's a good one, Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. And then they had Poole. They had the other kid. They had two rookies playing for them. So, but not all the teams have. You can't have the formula work for all the teams because the problem right now, I think, in the NBA are two major things in the NBA. Right, is that the player pool is you're getting less star power. Right, you have a lot of good players, but you're getting less star power, and the star power that you have is aging. And then the second thing, the coaches are horrific. And the problem with coaching is that, they have these guys that are coming out of colleges, coming out and thinking that, okay, we're just going to run and have less, play a little bit of defense and just score threes, right? So, coaching styles are just not, they're not comparable to what some of these players' skill sets are and skill levels are. So it's not a good team-oriented game right now. It's just running and the ball's being scored now, and teams are getting points. Now this is the same thing that happened to the NBA right when Jordan was retiring, and you saw the player pool wasn't as big for All-Stars, but then you got a big two or three drafts after that. You got more and more bigger drafts coming out where you had players like Vince Carter come out. You had players like it's just more and more players are coming out that had the potential of being stars.
Right.
But you had these teams spending a lot of money on these young players as well. But you weren't getting the same return on investment. And then you had those coaches aging out. You had Larry Brown, Hawkins. You had a lot of guys, Lenny Hawkins. You had a lot of guys aging out. Don Nelson. You had them also coming under. They were great coaches then, but you had to change because same thing. So I mean, that's the problem right now in the NBA, and we got to it has its ups and it has its downs.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this situation plays out for the Nets. They got a couple, barely 6 weeks, couple of months maybe to figure this out before the training camp starts, and they better figure something out quickly. So I'll let you, before we move on, I'll let Alan put his obligatory comment about the Thunder. They are doing some of the same things. I think they're doing a good job of building a team there in Oklahoma City. We'll see, whether they continue it and they can put the kind of parts around these kids that.
Yeah, but the thing about, again, the NBA, I try to tell people these major league professional teams, they're not made for development. They're made to have teams win in the now period mentality. It's what their fans think. Most fans want to just win a championship. So, they have to figure it out. These
goal.
Yeah, these teams have to figure it out. Are they they're gonna build the team up? Then they have to do it, but they can't do it during the season, during a professional season, man. Like, I don't want to watch the Knicks grow up for in 3 seasons they're going to be good. I don't want to see that. That's not what I'm paying ticket prices.
You can't put together championship teams overnight.
Yeah, no, of course I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. But what are you selling? What is the NBA? What is the NFL? What are you selling to me? Because if you're selling something and you're telling me these are kids that are going to become stars, fine. Then charge me for kids that are becoming stars. Don't charge me for the highest ticket price for me to watch kids grow up, because that's not what I'm interested in.
You have your choice. If you're not happy with the way the Knicks are building their team, let's say, you have the choice to stay home. If you're not
right, and of course that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm not going to watch the Nets or the Knicks play and go to the stadium.
They're winning in 3 years and jump back on the bandwagon.
It's not being a bandwagon. You just don't want, just not what you're paying for. You want to get your money's worth.
If I understand that, but as a fan, I want to see a team build a team the right way that's got some staying power.
No, you don't. That's malarkey. You don't want to see that. Are you serious? No. You don't want to see it, Keith. You telling me that if you were here in New York City, you're gonna pay $250 to see the New York grow up as a team and develop? Man, you don't want to see that. You want to see them in the championship in the Atlantic Division, Keith.
I did not say that. I said as a fan, I want to see my team built the right way and have staying power.
No, you don't. You just want to see your team win. You don't care about the other stuff. And if you do care about the other stuff, fine. That's great for you. But that's not what you're paying for.
Then don't say you. I won't go spend $250 to watch my team while it's rebuilding because I don't want to. I won't. But I'll still support my team and say they're doing this the right way.
That doesn't, just because they're building a team, it doesn't mean they're doing it the right way. The New York Rangers in hockey, they had trouble doing that for the last 10, 15 years, and now they're actually doing it the right way. The Jets, they do this every 5 years. The Jets are doing this. The Jets keep doing this. Now it's the Giants. The Giants in the last 8 years, they're doing this situation of rebuilding. I live in New York. I pay top dollar for tickets to see these games. I don't want to see a team being built. I want to see championships. If they're not winning, then I'm not going to go see them. That doesn't mean I don't support them. It just means I don't want to see that right now. But if you're a major league professional team and you're putting this on TV, then you have the question to answer to your fans. Are you putting out what the fans really want to see? Because people get mad when these stars don't come to your city and they're rested in the NBA. They get upset.
Well, but
right? Do you not get upset if you pay $200 and you don't see some of these players play? Come on.
Definitely. I don't disagree with that, but that's a different situation. Load management. If I got LeBron coming to New York once a year and he sits out because he's, it's not his night to play, then yeah, that pisses me off. The prices are outrageous. I get that, but it's not. And you can equate it to that. You have the right to do that, and you have the right to say, I'm not going to go to these games. I get that. But again, we talk about building teams and having good teams, but you want to throw kids into the Yankee games who have never played a major league game.
But that's what they have to do. They eventually have to play the game.
And then when they lose, they're going to say that they stink, and I'm not going to go to the game because they're letting the kids develop at the major league level. You can't have it both ways.
Look, okay, so when you say that about the Yankees always draft the top players, or they always get top players at their age group, right? So when as a Yankee fan, I'm like, look, you just got this guy, you're paying an international player, you paid him $10 million. Let's see, he's 16, 17, fine, don't put him in. He's 18, 21, put him in. Let's see what he's got. You just paid him $10 million. Let's see what this kid's got. If not, then you move him and you move on from him. That's different because the Yankees do that. That's what the Yankees that's how they're built.
Because you want to throw kids into a spot where they're going to not.
Yes, they're not kids anymore. They're 18 to 21, and if they can't produce as players, then they shouldn't be eating up time in the minors for other guys who are younger than them to get to the level they're at the moment. Look, the minor league system should be for the younger guys who are trying to get better and get playing time. Not for guys who are 30, 33 years old trying to hang on to a dream. That's not what that should be.
Late like Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge would never be around with your thoughts.
That's not true because Aaron Judge got drafted out of college, and then he played for only 2 seasons in the minors, and then he got into the major leagues. No. That was it. No. He did. The Yankees did him what they're supposed to do with a guy like that out of college.
If they threw him in from the beginning, like you would want him to do, he would have failed.
He didn't. He went to college. His beginning was at the age of 22. So he wouldn't have failed. He was already. He got developed in college. He used the college system for development.
Right. So by your argument, you would have said he should have started with the Yankees when they signed him to a big bonus out of the draft, and he should have played right away with the Yankees, and he would have failed. He would have failed.
No, you don't know that.
I would think I don't get paid.
You don't know that. You don't know. Did you scout him when he came out of college? Did you know what kind of numbers he had coming at him? When they were upset that they spent the years that they had him spend all those years in the minors to begin with, Keith.
For a second, guys who get paid a lot of money to evaluate these guys. I say it all
That's
the time.
you keep saying that, but you have to understand the system as well. The system is built on money, and that's why they just took the minor league system and contracted it, because there was a lot of money being spent and not players being developed.
Did you watch? You know the name David Clyde? David Clyde is the poster boy for bringing up kids when they're not ready, and he could have been one of the best. They threw him into the major leagues out of high school.
Okay, they threw their strawberry in the major leagues out of high school. Who cares? It doesn't matter what they do with these kids. What matters is if these kids can step up to the plate and be a player in a professional level. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
You need to be productive at the major league level.
Of course, but and if you're not, guess what? You got to go somewhere else.
Because Carlos, you would in a month's time when they're failing and they're losing, you're saying I'm paying $250 to go to a game. This is baloney. I'm not paying this money. This team stinks.
Look,
a bunch of kids who aren't ready.
Look, the G League is right now is inept for the NBA, and they know this, and they're doing the same thing the baseball was doing before. Is that they're holding on to players to make sure that they don't have to contract them long term, and that they can keep them around on the team. That's not what these leagues are for. That's not what the minors are for. Not to keep players around, man.
Right. I know. I get. Look at again. You can't have it both ways. You can't play a bunch of kids who aren't ready to play and then complain when they lose.
Okay. Again, you're not going to put a player up there who's not up to competition in the par. That's another thing.
Said we should do that. We don't know that Volpe and Peraza can play at the major league level.
Okay. So the Peraza situation, he should have been playing last year. He should have been up here playing.
Well, last year they could have at least tried him. I would have tried him last year. I don't need to try him this year. Why do I need to try him this year? Gleyber Torres has had a bounce back year. He may be the comeback player of the year in the American League. Why would I play him now?
Because Falafel's not doing that well.
So you want to throw a kid into
He's not a kid anymore, man. He's like 24 years old. He's not a kid.
24 years old. And he's not even having a good year in the minors.
He is. He's having a decent year in the minors. He is.
Well, he must have turned it around in the last month. So.
Yeah, he's been doing okay. Like, look, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not going to know what this kid has if you don't put him out there. But again, the NBA is different in the sense. The NBA is different in the sense where they get these college kids, and they're leaving college early now.
Listen, the Yankees, go back to Peraza for a second. They must have a plan for Peraza and Volpe because they wouldn't.
The Yankees don't have a plan, which is what they're struggling right now because they don't know what they're doing.
Then why didn't they trade him for Luis Castillo when they could have?
They should have traded him for Luis Castillo. That's the problem.
They wouldn't.
They don't have a plan.
They want them to.
They want to hold these kids over so they look. If the Yankees had a plan, they better tell their fans because they're not doing right to their players in the minors, and they're not doing right to the team right now because the team is struggling.
And this comment for IKEA about IKEA is not fair to compare him to Joey Gallo because Joey Gallo is making a boatload of freaking money on top of it. So let's not forget about that. And he wasn't supposed to bring anything to this team other than what he has. Dependable defense, which again has been a little shaky at times. But I'm not about to throw a kid who.
He's not a kid, man. He's not 15. He's not a kid. He's a man who needs to be on the field to see what he can offer the team. That's it.
Guys are not mature at 24 years old. A lot of these kids.
It doesn't matter, Keith. That's your problem. That's the mindset. That's the mindset that's holding the leagues back.
Because as you said before, did I scout Aaron Judge out of college? No, but plenty of guys did, and they know where he stood when he got to the.
Plenty of guys missed on that draft, man. Plenty of guys are kicking themselves in the butt on that draft.
Well, there's guys who get paid to make these decisions on players.
That's a different story for another day, man.
I get it. I don't know how we got on this topic. You just wanted to piss me off today, apparently.
No, it's just not. I'm not paying top dollar for these professional teams to see players that are not top dollar players to watch. I'm not doing it.
The Philly kids began to turn. He's right. Sal's got to. I will give Sal. And again, Sal's kind of backing your argument. It's a different situation, though.
Baltimore's doing the same thing right now.
Totally different situation. It's not the same situation as the Yankees have. Now, maybe they could use a boost of energy, and maybe they could try one of these kids, bring up somebody.
Sal, you have a point. and I'm glad that it's going towards my argument.
Glad that we found somebody that would back up the Mad New Yorker on the show for a change. Sal, thanks for coming.
No, so people think my perception is crazy, but it's if you're looking at it from as not a fan, if you're looking at it as somebody who likes baseball, you can't just be seen there watching the 35-year-old play when you can be watching a 22-year-old play who can actually provide more to the game than a 35-year-old who's almost out of the game.
And I understand Sal's point too. I can't find out if they can play unless they play. But again, I got to tell you, talent evaluators were telling me when these.
They don't. They sometimes these guys tell you what they want you to hear as well. So that's not always a good thing, man.
Now I will say this. Hold on. Let me get I said it worked in Philadelphia. It didn't. I agree. No, it did work. And they've been playing very well. And also getting rid of Girardi didn't hurt you either, by the way, who I've never been a fan of. So anyway, that's great. Actually, it segues into we're kind of on the major leagues now and who's hot and who's not. The Phillies are playing good baseball, probably because of this. Yankees are not playing good baseball. And maybe my argument is ridiculous because maybe they do need a shot of energy, but not both of those kids, not three kids. Like the Phillies had places to play these kids. The Yankees don't.
The Yankees have made these moves, but they made them when the players were injured and oft injured, right? That's how we got to see Andujar and Gleyber Torres and even what's this guy who they traded, the third baseman, the Colombian guy, I can't remember, Urshela. That's when so the Yankees have had opportunities to play the younger players, but they always use the injury as an opportunity but that's not always the case in baseball. The season's too long, and you can always play guys to see what they have a couple days. You don't have to play them the whole season. But the problem is when you start playing them and they catch fire and they're good, then you have to pay them, and that's the problem that they have. It goes against some of the contractual agreements that they have.
Right, and the thing is with the kids, they can't come up here and sit. The kids in Philly are doing well because they're not sitting; they're playing. Right. They can't. You're going to stunt their growth if you bring them up here and just sit them on the bench. That's ridiculous. If they're going to play,
Keith, that happens to players on regular rosters anyway. Look at what happened to J.D. Davis. J.D. Davis was on the Astros, has a good swing, a good stick, plays decent, but they were playing him as a utility guy, and J.D. Davis is not a utility guy. J.D. Davis is a third baseman. He came up as a third baseman, and he should stay in third base. Then the Astros got rid of him because they were top heavy, right?
Bad, by the way.
What?
A very bad third baseman.
He doesn't play every day. That was a problem. Then the Mets got him, and they did the same thing to him. Instead of playing him every day, they got Escobar this past season. They had him on the bench. He struggles hitting because he's not playing every day anyways. He struggles with the glove because he's not playing every day anyways, and now they just got rid of him.
One of the reasons
it happens to the players who are regularly on the roster anyway. Just put in a young kid to see what he's got.
It's a vicious cycle. He's not playing every day because he's bad with the glove. I mean, God.
He's not that. If he was that bad with the glove, then they shouldn't have brought him up to begin with. They should have just got rid of him.
Enjoy your day at work, Rick. I'm on a 4-day weekend, by the way. It's the anniversary of my 39th birthday on Monday. So
congratulations on that, Keith.
Thank you. I never thought I'd see this milestone. Yankees aren't built to beat teams. Look, I know this. The Yankees are in trouble. I'm not going to tell you the Yankees aren't in trouble. What Sal got here? Sal's good. I'm glad Sal's with us today. Right? Keep their backs are against the wall. We're against the wall, and the Yankees, we're winning right now. But now the situation's different. To be honest with you, Phillies are hot because they brought up the kids. Big game, big series this weekend. Sal, by the way, with the Mets, I'll wish you luck. I'm not a Met fan, but I can't root against Buck.
I'll be there, and I'm on as well to watch them these weeks.
I'll also be there. And listen, it's got the Phillies back in the race. It's got them in the wild card. They're the second seed in the wild card right now, and it's worked well. And maybe now with the pitchers and the Yankees are in. I mean, they haven't even played 500 baseball over the last 45 games. So Yankees right now are a mediocre team despite the overall record. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they should try an infusion of something because the trades haven't worked. Benintendi's played as bad or worse than Gallo. They can't play Bader for another at least 3 weeks, maybe a month. I don't know where his team's going. And as Alan said, the problem is this team, and I've said it before, and I ate crow while they were on this hot streak early in the year, the team is still not built correctly because they can't score runs without hitting home runs. And in the postseason, that will never work.
Right. And Stan B now is not helping them as well.
There's Alan. There's Alan with his obligatory Joey Gallo. The Joey Gallo curse is alive and well. Mantle said, "If I know, yeah, he did say that. I remember. If you know I was going to live that long, he'd taken better care of himself." Mickey Mantle lived his life so hard. I'll get off on a tangent here, and Sal knows the story, I'm sure, because no male member of his family had ever lived like past the age of 30.
Right.
Before Mickey. His father died young, his uncles, his grandfathers. And
all heavy drinkers and heavy smokers as well.
He figured he was going to go early, and I'm just going to have fun while I'm here. So Castillo ate them alive. I know.
Yeah, Castillo played a great game against them.
Every good pitcher eats the Yankees alive. They don't score. They get them out of the game. Maybe they score some runs. It happened when they played the Mets. Scherzer shut them down. They scored some runs when the bullpen came in. When Castillo was in, they scored some runs when the bullpen came in. But good pitching, that's why they're going to have trouble with the Astros, because the Astros got a good bullpen and a good starting rotation.
And I'm telling you now, I'm saying it now, Verlander's not going to last the whole season, man.
Oh,
I'm not saying that I want him to get hurt. I'm just saying it happens. It just,
I said 30. I was probably do they all have Hodgkin's disease? I didn't know that. Okay.
I didn't know that either. I'm going to look that up. That's crazy.
It's probably true. I don't know about the age. Sal could very well be right. I've known that for years, and I probably exaggerate the year down every year. I didn't know they all had Hodgkin's either. It's possible. I know his dad did. So anyway, Mutt Mantle, I believe was his name, right, Sal? I think you can probably verify that. Mutt Mantle. Anyway, let's move on to a couple other things here real quick. We're not gonna. What else you got in the? We talked a lot about the Yankees. The Astros are struggling too since the trade deadline as well, but I think they will get themselves straightened out.
Well, they got that win last night, so that puts them one ahead of the Yankees, right?
Yeah,
they need the American League and wins right now.
The Phillies, the Dodgers are hot. The Cardinals are hot. You know, the Brewers front office ought to be kicking themselves for trading away their best bullpen pitcher because he had a couple of bad outings. And I know they felt they were not going to be able to sign him 2 years from now anyway. But, you know, to not bring in a bat is nuts in that situation. They got a great pitching staff, and it's going to go to waste. They're not even in the playoffs if we're to end today. I don't know. What else you got? I do want to talk about one other baseball thing myself real quick. We'll try to get some NFL in here before we get out of here. What do you got on your mind about the Major League Baseball?
So the Tigers, they just fired the GM,
which I think we talked about. Didn't we talk about him being in trouble? Probably. Right?
Yeah, you talked about La Russa being fired, but the GM is the one who got the axe. So
not even on a different show. I was talking about the Tigers and both Oliva and Hinch probably being in trouble because that team was expected to make some leaps forward this year.
Yeah, so I don't. I don't think that Hinch is in trouble, but
he'll probably survive. I think if they were going to fire him, they probably would have fired him together. Probably, yeah. Unless the new GM comes in and wants his own guy, then that's always problematic too.
Right. This whole GM thing is I don't know where they're going to find these guys, man. Because that's another thing that needs to change right now in baseball, right? It's just like some of these guys coming in as GMs, and
well, they don't want these old timers like Oliva anymore. They want young guys like Billy Epler, and
that's what I'm saying. Even Ang and Miami is, she's right now in the hot seat, which is not fair for her because they actually have a good. They turned over the whole team, got rid of all that salary that they were in debt of, and now they're ready to move forward and move on players, and they put on the hot seat.
And they can't put enough offense on the field. They got some of the best young pitchers in baseball. Alcantara is the best pitcher in baseball in my mind.
Right now, yes. I don't think there's anybody who's better than him right now.
And they got some other kids that are really, really, really good, and they just cannot put any offense together at all. And their best offensive player, Jazz Chisholm, is out probably for the year and been out for like 2 months now. So what else has Sal got here? How about those poor San Diego? Listen, your boy Mancini, Sal. He keeps promoting these Padres, and again, you don't win without pitching in the postseason. Padres may get to the playoffs, or they may not. They're only last time I looked, they were only a game ahead of whoever was right behind them. I can't remember now. I guess the Brewers. And there's not a guarantee they're going to get there. Their pitching is not that good. And if they get to the playoffs, I've already talked about this. The Yankees have seen this for years now. Really good pitching will shut down really good hitting almost every time in the playoffs. It happens almost every time.
I mean, they're probably going to need another pitcher, man, you know?
You know what? That's a good point, by the way. Ron Washington should have gotten another shot as a manager in the major leagues. I'm surprised he didn't. Alcantara is 1-2. He did just lose to the Phillies the other night, I think, right? So that's a good call there. Phillies beat. Look at Phillies got some bats. If their pitching holds up, their bullpen holds up. Dominguez, I know I think he's the closer now, Sal. You look at this team could get hot. Rob Thompson's done a great job, by the way. I can't for
the Alcantara number is kind of an okay stat because Alcantara is 1-3 with the Mets, right? So
yeah, wins. It's hard to judge pitchers by wins and losses.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, he shut out the Mets twice.
Yeah,
then they didn't score much when he was pitching.
I wish we could, but when you're only going to pitch guys 5 or 6 innings, it's hard to judge them by wins and losses. So,
but you got to see what this guy throws, man.
I got to get this in too. So they played the Field of Dreams game last night.
Mm-hmm, they do, yeah.
I got to tell you, I mean, I thought it's a great concept. I loved it last year. It was awesome. The visuals are still great, but they got to trick it up. I mean, it's a real Major League game. I don't think Major League Baseball players ought to be mic'd up and talking to the announcers while they're playing the game, not during, while they're warming up. Joey Votto multiple times last night, he's mic'd up, said, "Oh, I got to get in position for this guy." Good thing it's 2 crappy teams in this game to have no impact on the pennant races, but that's ridiculous. It's okay in the All-Star game, mic guys up, but not in a real game. Yeah, that's to get casual fans to tune in and watch. Not me, not you. I hope.
I was hoping that the Cincinnati would play a little bit better. They held on to some players on the last few games for the Mets. They didn't play them. Their bullpen, especially. I was hoping they get a little bit more out, get more out of that, but it wasn't that bad of a game. The concept's great. They're not gonna do it again next year because they're gonna do some reconstruction.
And why? You're gonna lose all the wonderful ambiance of this thing is gonna go away when you build a bigger. You play then. Who cares if there's 7,000 people there? It's not about who's there. It's the feel will go away. And by the way, my biggest gripe is the White Sox have to be in this game every year. How can the White Sox not be in this game when the movie and the book was?
I think that's one of the things. It should be like they should make it like a standard where it's almost like watching Detroit play every Thanksgiving, and you're like, why? Like just give them that game and have the White Sox play every other team. So that's the way I see it.
Exactly. It's gotta be the White Sox in this game. And by the way, the other thing about that drove me nuts, we're not gonna have a lot of time for the NFL, but we'll jump in a little bit. The whole thing with Harry Carey hologram last night was creepy to me. I don't know about anybody else. Probably some people found it cool. And maybe I'm just old. But if you put a video up there of him singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," I think I'd been okay with that. But a hologram in the stands of him singing was a little weird. And I just didn't like it. Again, another gimmick to try to get people to tune in. People were going to tune in probably anyway. I love the concept, but they're already tricking it up. This is Rob Manfred's fingerprints all over this thing. And they're tricking it up to try to get the casual fan to tune in. And I don't like it. I just don't like it. More of my probably old man yelling at you to get off my grass, but whatever. So real quick, we only got a couple minutes left. Let's jump. What are your thoughts on the NFL right now? I know it's early in training camp.
Tyrod Taylor's playing better than Daniel Jones. Is that any big news at all? No.
Again, he didn't play against anybody. The Patriots didn't have a starter on the field last night. I guess Malcolm Butler, if you want to call him a starter, was in the game. But the Patriots didn't put a single starter on the field.
Yeah, preseason games were not for these guys anyway. So
no, so I wouldn't. No, you're not going to see much of this.
Still made a game out of it. What was that, 27-24 or something like that?
No, but it's hard to watch those games for me. And look, I watched the first couple series. I wanted to see how Daniel Jones looked, and he missed a couple of throws that he should have completed. That's probably the biggest thing I take away from.
I don't even think he's a backup in this league, but
I will tell you
give him an opportunity. So
And the other thing I'll take away from it, which I already knew, and I'm starting to get concerned because the Patriots, everything I read from camp is the Patriots' offensive scheme is a mess. The play calling's a mess. Last night, Judge and Patricia were sharing play calling duties. This is a recipe for disaster for this team.
So, which is why I brought up that Belichick as a head coach should move up into management or something, because he's not as a head coach, you can't have that.
Let me just get in this a little bit. A couple comments before we move on, Alan. If they rebuild it, they will return.
Hey, put that on the shirt, Sal.
What's that?
Put on a T-shirt, Sal.
Right. You might make some money. Oh, God. Actually, watching Giants-Pats game last night, again, by the time he got in the game, he wasn't playing against anybody either. I mean, these guys it's good for them to get a little, the speed of the game is going to be quicker. I don't take anything away from the final scores. I really don't care. Jets lost their right tackle for the knee for the second straight year. That is.
I want to say something about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Jets, everybody's harping on them doing so much better with this new regime. It's the same old Jets. This kid should have never gone in front of the media at all after his reconstruction knee anyways to see whether he was going to come back or not. He should have just been on the injured list. They should have just handled the situation as him being injured until he came back fully with his knee being healthier and him being in decent shape. They put him out there, they're dragging him out there, and they made this whole issue out of something that shouldn't have been an issue. And now the Jets look like they're in trouble again because, again, now they don't have a right tackle. They don't have anybody to protect this guy. They brought somebody else in.
They brought in Dwayne Brown.
And but again, this is something that the old Jets used to do with those old coaches, and they're making something out of nothing. And now they look like they don't know what they're doing with this new head coach. Look, that's a situation that the team physician, the team coach, a defensive coordinator, the coaches should have known and handled in the office. That's something you keep in a building, and when the guy was ready to come back and play, then you say, yeah, he's gonna be coming back and such and such day. We'll see if that happens. That's it. But now you have this whole circus going on, and at the end of the day, your issue and your biggest problem is that you have a project quarterback, and you're not going anywhere. So he might have drafted the team might have drafted very well this past season, but this past draft, but they're not going anywhere.
You sound like a typical Jets fan, and watching from the outside, this team, I keep telling you, will be better this year than they were last year.
Okay, fine. They're going to play a little bit better defense, but they're not going to have no offense.
And I was somewhere. I don't know what show was it. This show? No, I don't know where. What we had it must have been my Sunday stream of consciousness where I talked about one team, and I'm not saying again they're going to do this, but if I had to pick a team, a dark horse out of nowhere that will do better than expected this year, and maybe
the Miami Dolphins. Stop getting stuff, Keith. Come on. Come on, man.
Dolphins.
Why would you pick the Jets? Look, even in Vegas, the bets for both New York teams that play in New Jersey is plus or minus 6 games. Exactly. These teams probably won't even reach 6, to be honest with you. Exactly. Which is why I'll be probably hearing the game on the radio and doing other things on Sundays than going out there and spending $200 to watch any of these teams play.
Zach Wilson will be a better quarterback than Tua this year.
No, he won't.
Yes, he will.
Oh, no, he won't. I'll bet you money on that.
Yeah, well, we only got a couple minutes left here, but Sal brings up a great question. Why is Rowe waiting to decide on a quarterback? He knows what he's got in Darnold. His job's on the line. And even ex-coach, Giant coach Ben McAdoo, who wasn't a Mayfield fan, now is coming around to saying Mayfield's really playing well. Baker Mayfield.
The biggest issue the Panthers have is that they don't have an O-line, and their defense is getting spent because they have to be on the field way too long. Their defense was something that they knew that they had. It's something about that O-line and the tight ends that they're not going to be able to protect any of those quarterbacks. So it doesn't matter who they put back there.
Yeah. I'm beginning to worry about this, actually, Alan. They could do better to pass.
The Jets and the Pats will probably be tied.
I was really high in the Pats until I started watching them, seeing some stuff, reading some stuff, and seeing some stuff from training camp. And the offense is a mess right now. Detroit, and Alan's talking. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
I see Detroit coming up.
I don't know where, though. But anyway.
Minnesota's going to, as retooling, and maybe they'll do okay, but the only problem they have is they have too much faith in Kirk Cousins.
Well, we still got a few weeks to chat about this stuff, and we'll talk more NFL actually for sure next week. Watch my vlog. You'll see me go off on Tom Brady. I've always stuck up for Tom Brady.
We're going to talk about that.
Very unhappy with Tom Brady. We'll talk about it more maybe next week too, because we won't be back.
Yeah.
For the Mad New Yorker, thanks for watching Are You Serious? Right here on Northeastern Sports.